Can you hear me now? Did that help? Is that, do I got sound, anything? All right, good deal. There we go. I don't know how that thing got turned off. I'm quite certain that I did it, but I just don't know how I did it. I'm talented that way. Electronics and me don't generally get along so very, very well. Sometimes they do. Oh, this God. Good God. All right, well, there you are. We are here for GM's Tricks of the Trade, number something or the other, 77, I think. And we're just, is it 7710? Is that where we are? Shaking it up. Yeah, just some random tricks this time. But for those of you who joined at the beginning, I'm trying to figure out how to do the intro videos that 𝐓𝐫𝐚𝐝𝐞 made for us. But it's not working so well. We'll get it there. 5 more. Thank you for the sub, Epi. Much appreciated. Very, very cool. And welcome everybody to GM's Tricks of the Trade number 77. We'll dive in a few minutes. Give folks time to wander in and see what get their coffee made, whatever people do. We got a little bit of ice down here, so the Mid-South are we the Mid-South? I don't know. Arkansas is kind of cold and slick at the moment. Got a lot of writing done today too. It's been a good writing day. Did a little creation on a new cityscape. Worked on some fiction, and actually wrote up the troll for the world of air, and I'm pretty happy with it. And thanks for the subscription at night 5150. Very much appreciated. So the Starship Warden, Peter and I are going over it. We went over it yesterday. There's still quite a few pieces of art in there that I'm not happy with. We've already cleaned out a good chunk of the clip art that I thought was not worthy of the entire project. We got that out of there for the most part, and a lot of Jason Walton, some of Peter Bradley stuff in there. So Peter's going back through and doing a restructuring to clean a little bit more of that out. I'm really hoping that we're very close to a final manuscript by tomorrow. I've already contacted the printers, so we can get that rolling on their end, and they can get us in on the schedule on that whole 9 yards. And then, of course, he's juggling two right now. We've got content coming in from the Monsters and Treasures of Air, 5th edition, that he's kind of laying both books out simultaneously, which is, he can do it. He gets paid for it, so he's very skilled at it. I cannot get this camera set right. I need a new camera if I really need. You can actually see I've got here the 𝐓𝐫𝐤𝐬 demon is one of the latest pictures that will appear in the Monsters and Treasures of Air for 5th printing. Zoe Devos is knocking these things out for us. And next, she's going to draw 4 humanoids, a troll, an orc, a goblin, and a kobold, because we really need to get a good representation. We've been doing this for 20 years, and we don't have really good color representations of just those monsters. So I want that taken care of. So that's going to be Zoe's next project as soon as she's done with these 4 knuckleheads, or these 8 demon knuckleheads, whatever they are. Thank you, King Coulter. I'll let her know. She is just knocking these things out of the park. I am so super excited about it that she just finished the succubus and sent that over. And it's this beautiful woman like a succubus is, but her wings, where her wings are covering up the flesh, you can see through the wings and see that she's actually this wretched demon. She did just this great, imaginative, beautifully shaded picture that, captured both the alluring beauty of a succubus and the wretched, corruption that is a succubus as well. So she's just really an exceptional artist. She's got, I can't say enough good stuff about her. She draws things or paints things or whatever the appropriate terminology is for you artists out there that I can see in my head. It's really cool to see that translated to the paper so well. I'm just terrified she's going to leave. She's not. Let's see, what are we doing? Yeah, I mean, it's time Decimus. It's way past time, especially the troll. For God's sake, it's troller games. We really need we need a good representation of a troll, right? I mean, we're a troll or gay. So we are here for GM's Tricks of the Trade, number 77, shaking it up. We're going to be giving we're raffling off 3 more seats at my table for next Friday's game. We'll kick off the big Underdark Greyhawk campaign that will begin over at Lord Gazumba's Twitch channel Friday afternoon, and I'm the opening, what's the act that opens before the main act? Is that the opening act? That's going to be me. So we're going to raffle off we've already raffled 3 of the chairs off. We're going to do another 3 throughout today's show to hang around. We'll do it, I think, about every 15 minutes or so. We'll do one of these raffles. And if you have not, please give us a follow. We're trying to ratchet up our presence on Twitch, and the more support we see from you guys, the more justification we have for pumping more resources into it. So give us a follow if you can, and anything else is appreciated. Yeah, Art of Mike Disney is going to be very cool. I love watching those things. It's a lot of gaming, a lot of drow too. Though I have to confess, I never really, in my AD&D days, I didn't really run the D series. That's D1, 2, and 3. What are the Defense of the Unknown? Nope, that's B1. I honestly can't remember what the drow series are called, the D series. But well, I love you guys, so I hope I can help out in any way with supporting here. Very cool, very cool. We appreciate anything you guys can do. Yeah, so the D series, we'll be kicking that thing off. But for today, we are doing GM's Tricks of the Trade, number 77. I still marvel that this thing is cooking like it is. We have begun kind of gathering the notes for a GM's Tricks of the Trade book. I think we've got more than enough content for a first volume. So Tim and I have been looking at how we're going to organize that and edit it and put it together in that whole 9 yards. So we're pretty excited about that. Maybe by later in the summer, we've got a few projects that absolutely have to get wrapped up before we start anything new. So, there's always that. But anyway, so what I did today, so we're kind of mixing it up. Last week we did The Art of War, and there's 2 more installments in The Art of War, that's really talking about mass combat at the table. And as opposed to doing them all 3 in a row, we decided to break it up and do one last week, and we're going to do this kind of random tricks this week, and then next week we'll do Art of War 2, and then the next week we'll mix it up, and then the week after that, Art of War 3. Just kind of break up for those people who don't do mass combat at the table or don't really care to know how to do it or don't even particularly want to do it. We didn't want to make a whole month of shows that you have no interest in. So this week is the first of that, just random things that I do at the table. And these are actually, in some regard, my favorite kind of tricks of the trade because, as you all know, and you guys have been gaming for a while, you've been running tables. Even if you haven't been doing it for a while, you'll quickly learn that there's just so many little things that crop up at the table that need taken care of. You need some kind of response or a distraction or something to collect your thoughts, whatever it is, especially if you have kind of a fast-paced game. It's good just to have a few arrows in your quiver. And as always with GM Tricks of the Trade, please put your comments in the thread here, comments on what I'm saying and things that you do at the table as well. It's kind of in the subject that we're talking about today. Just because so we all can kind of benefit from everybody's experiences. A lot of you guys have run games for a long time, and you've got a lot of experience. And let's all dive in there. It's all a good thing. I think I want to crack a Dr. Pepper for this. Is what I think. I think it's time. Lord, I'm running out. Got birds everywhere. I've been feeding the birds extra today because of all the ice and snow. So I've had, 30 or 40 birds outside the window all day. It's good. Good to feed the birds. All right, so the first trick of the trade is always have a drink of Dr. Pepper before you begin in game. I've been a lurker and a fan for a while. Well, thanks for joining us, Dragons in the Dining Room. Join in the conversation. We love it all. So dive right in. So the first one, this one is a This isn't interesting to me, and I get this question all the time. I even get this from people who have played at my table for years. They'll take their action during the round. They roll initiative and they're going to swing or cast a spell, whatever, dodge, whatever they're doing, and then they'll say, and I always encourage role playing, but they'll say, "Can I say something or such and such?" And I tell them all the time, talking is not an action. Talking is just talking. People talk and do stuff all the time. You can talk and aim a weapon, and you can talk and fight. And it may distract you. It may distract whomsoever you're talking to. There could be consequences from it. That's up to the CK. But shouting out to another, from one character to another, "Dodge," or, "Help me over here," or whatever it is, or "Bob's wounded," whatever it is not an action. And I think it behooves not warning, but letting players know that you can do this. This is actually more important than it sounds, because combat can turn one way or the other very quickly, and if the party is not able to, at least in some capacity, work together, help one another out, or help slay the monster or whatever, that it can go south when it didn't necessarily need to go south. And a perfect example of that is being wounded. If someone needs healed in the midst of combat, if you have to take an entire round to step out of combat and shout to a cleric or an illusionist or a druid or whoever does your healing, "I need healing," then it doesn't make any sense. There's no reason why you couldn't get cut with a sword and shout, "This hurts like a son of a someone heal me," and still hack and swing and throw your shield up. There's no reason for that. So definitely just let your players know that speaking is not an action, or it shouldn't be. If it is in the game that you're playing, I would recommend that you change the rules a little bit. I'm a huge fan of changing rules. You can decapitate an orc and shout out the answer to a math problem at the same time. That's right. Someone's shouting. We got geometry in my house right now because one of mine is going through a geometry nightmare. So triangles this, triangles that, what have you. Bob's linked away. There you go. I never have a problem getting them to talk in combat. My issue is them wanting to have 30 minutes of discussion and strategy planning. Yeah, well, that's okay. That's a great point, actually, on that. I'm glad you brought that up. So, yeah, it can't be. That's why I call it shouting in the Prince's Phrase. It can't be something where they're having a conversation. In Catholics and Crusade, the round is 6 seconds, so you can say a little bit in 6 seconds, but you can't plan a plot. Someone can shout, "Go around the right flank," or grab his tail, or whatever, Bob's linked away, or whatever it is. But the big strategy session. And when they do that, when they do break into a strategy session, my round doesn't stop. I keep hammering them so that they've got to stop and pay attention to what they're doing. That's a great point, though, because players will definitely take advantage of that. The only limitation I have on talking during games is if it's not your turn, you are limited to how much you can say in 6 seconds, so no lengthy conversations. Yeah, exactly right. You got to get it out and get it fast. Now, this is something I do. I don't often apply it to players talking to players during combat, but actually it would work well. If I want my rounds, and I like my combat rounds to go very, very fast. So I only do this really to veteran players, people who have played with me for a while. I rarely do it at conventions, and I doubt I'll do it online with new players. But I'll frequently I'll hold my hand up, and it'll be, I'll give them 5 seconds, essentially, to take their action and say what they're saying. And when my hand comes down, they're done. We're moving on to the next person. And if they didn't take an action or they didn't finish what they were saying, then that's where it cuts off. So if you do have that problem, or you do want to keep that kind of time constraint, on the round itself, just hold your hand up, count out to 5. It also, the cool thing about that is it adds that level of pressure to it that they might not necessarily feel if you're not timing them. And I don't say anything. I'm not yelling or whatever. Just hold my hand up, and they know, they can see it. It's like the countdown on the bomb on any TV show that it says it's got 10 seconds left. Don't do like the TV show, because it'll say 10 seconds and then 3 minutes of screen time passed, and the bomb still hasn't gone off. But just count the sucker down and have at him. I stabbed the orc while asking him where was the flying speed and why is the flying speed if not letting follow. What do you mean? A European or an African? Yeah, there you go. My problem with combat is that no matter how hard I try, There are some characters that just don't ever say anything more than I attack, or I pass X spell, roll their dice, and then move on to the next character. I want them to roleplay so badly, but I can only shine so many spotlights on them before it becomes annoying. We've talked about that before, King Kothar, and you're spot on. Some people just don't like it. They just don't like to roleplay. They don't want to shout in combat. They don't want to roleplay before and after combat. They just don't have any interest in it. They're there for whatever, just to hang out, to play the game, the mechanics of it. And I've had a few players like that, good players, but they didn't roleplay. And I remember in the long ago days, I would try to force them into getting great descriptions and really getting into their characters, and it never worked. All it did was frustrate me and put, like you say, the spotlight on them, made them uncomfortable, and the game spiraled. So I learned over time to just stop. If you want to get someone else to roleplay, the best way to do it, in my experience, is to get another player to roleplay with them, because then there's this kind of peer pressure thing going on. If it's coming from this side of the screen, it's more like a punishment almost, and that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. It's kind of in that vein. But if you can get other players, text them before the game and say, hey, I want to get Bob. I don't want Bob to slink away, so I want him to get into the game more. Let's try to role play with him and get that going. Then you might be a little better off for it. Looks like the first raffle is a go. Tim, I think I closed Skype. I'm supposed to be listening to Tim on Skype, and I messed that all up, to nobody's surprise. But let me get so the first raffle is a go. We're raffling off the first. Good Lord of mercy. Yeah, he told me to go about 4 minutes ago. That's hilarious. All right, I got to answer this one real quick. This is from the aforementioned Zoe. With a sketch of the 𝐓𝐫𝐚𝐝. Very cool. All right, good deal. I had to give her clearance on that one. I want to get those. She's got two more to do, I think, and I want to get those wrapped up and over to Peter and lay out so we can hop into something else. But yeah, so shouting. Try to get them try to just let them know that during the comment round they can shout. But as we've mentioned in the stream here, don't let them do too much jibber jabbing, or it'll go south. Jesus, I love Dr. Pepper. Lord have mercy, I love Dr. Pepper. So those first just coming in, type in. We're doing the first raffle. Type in ! raffle to have your name entered in to get one of the seats at my table next week at Friday's game. Yeah, they should love me, for heaven's sake. I'm like the main spokesperson for Dr. Pepper these days. So the second trick of the trade, some people are happy, low-key participating. Others like to be more involved. That's just it at the end of the day. And don't push it, because if you push it, it's just not going to go the way you want it to. How much is Dr. Pepper paying you for the product? None! What is up with this? There's no justice in the world. Yeah, I think there is rarely a picture shown of me on the internet without a Dr. Pepper in hand. And we did text him once with the plan to replace Mountain Dew as the unofficial drink of gamers with Dr. Pepper. It really should be. They both have ridiculously high sugar content. They're both horrible for you. Why? They're so delicious. I'm not a big fan of Mountain Dew. I can't say that's delicious. No offense to the Mountain Dew people. Pretty well today. So the next one is Let It Stand. Okay, so this is a little bit trickier. This is with damage. This is how I handle damage. So you've done this before. You're fighting, you're rolling the dice, whatever, and then you realize you've been rolling the wrong dice, or you picked the wrong monster stats I've done before, and you just mucked it all up. Don't ever backtrack. Don't fix it. Just fix it going forward. If you backtrack, it's going to wipe out whatever combat flow you had, whatever flow you had at the table. If you had any, it's going to be wiped out, as you have to sit back and recalculate damage and re-roll dice and all that mess. It's no big deal. It just happened that the monster he had too much Dr. Pepper that morning. He can't fight as well. He got a sugar rush or something, and there it is. And the same goes with the players. If they suddenly announce, and this happened very recently, I was supposed to be rolling a D8, not a D6. And I was like, the sword you just didn't have a good grip on it. And after fighting for a few rounds, you got a better grip. Now you know you can hit better. So you're doing a D8 at this point forward. I don't want to stop and reconfigure anything. Anything that breaks up my flow of combat is frustrating because once you get knocked out of it, it's sometimes it's easy to get back in, but sometimes it's not, and the combat begins to just fizzle out. So I have to say, those of you who have been around for a long time know that one of the things that I do when I run combat is I do it around the table. I start at the guy, whoever's sitting to the right, and then next to them, and then next to them, and next to them, all the way around back to me. And this game I've been running for my sons and nephews, it's been chaotic because I've been not doing my normal combat rounds. I've been you go, then you go, then you go, then you go. I'm all over the place. And with my mixed initiatives, it's just caused chaos, and I had to actually rein it all in last week. I said, okay, let's stop. We'll start over. Let's, Dakota, you're on my right, you go, initiative, and get control of the round. So it's always good to keep control when you can, and reconfiguring damage as a way to lose control in a heartbeat. What do you do? Let's see, Mexican Coke is, Mexican Coke is delicious. Mexican Coke is my fave. You think living in Texas, I'd like Dr. Pepper, but nah. So if you get Coke, you can get Coca-Cola from Mexico. Dr. Pepper too. It's made with imperial sugar. I think we've talked about this before. It is really good. It's really, really good. My Kroger will carry the glass bottles of Coke that's bottled in Mexico. Once in a while, it pops up. It's very, very, very good. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, I only drink Dr. Pepper out of a can unless it's a glass bottle. The bottle's plastic is just unacceptable. I can't keep it cold enough, so I just don't do it. I'd rather drink sand than warm anything. You break the fourth wall when you go back and fix stuff. You just leave it in the next. Absolutely, John. And that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to do anything that just derails everything. It makes everybody stop and think, oh, we got to figure these numbers out. You really want them to be in a moment of, swords flying around, blood and gristle and bone and all that mess. That's where you want to keep them. Winners being picked for the first raffle, very cool. From first, third level, I'll hand down. After fifth level, I tell my players they need to know their sheets, and if they make a mistake, it's on them. That's a good way, especially for beginning players. You give them a little bit of rope, and then they can figure it as they go forward. Yeah, it's not a bad way of doing it. I prefer in combat to stick it. Now after the combat, that's fine. You move on. But we got two more, Snow Quilter. Two more after this. So you're good to dive in. Let's see, what do you think of one initiative roll for enemies and one for players, and you just go left to right on the table? I've tried that too, actually, where I'm just going to roll mine and keep it for the whole thing. But I find that it's interesting, and this may be a personal thing. I find that it takes a little bit of the activity away from me, so that I'm less focused on that player that I'm. So if I'm rolling an initiative each round for each player, I'm really focusing on that player more. And if I've kind of got a static initiative, it's the same thing. It's the opposite. I don't focus as much. It's very interesting, and I don't know if that's kind of a psychological thing with me, the way I interact with people, or what it is. I have tried it. I have definitely tried it, and I will do where I'll break that up. If I've got like 3 opponents on one player, I'll roll one initiative for all 3. But I have in the past rolled 3 initiatives for all 3 and let the round just kind of, fly in every which direction. I really do like chaos in combat. I like a lot. I want to hear the dice hitting a lot. I want people to be a little confused about what's going on, because I suspect strongly that's what combat's like. And anything that you can kind of do to help, create that little edge of tension is a good thing. So pretty much any Coke in glass is awesome. Yeah. Now I'll tell you this: if I've got ice and I'll put Coke over an ice in a heartbeat. I love Coke on ice, especially crushed ice. If I go to the theater, I only get Coke. I don't like Dr. Pepper on ice. I'm very weird. Very picky with my Dr. Pepper. How's it going, Gig Preacher? Hey, we are in the process of building our TikTok page, Davis and I. So we'll keep you posted. And I may shout at you for some pointers here soon. I thought we were doing game suits. Yeah, we are doing game suits, aren't we? I think we are. Great. I think that's what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Who won? Did someone win? I closed my Skype. Good Lord of mercy. Alright, I'm just missing lots of stuff at this point. I'm very anti-roll initiative each round. Where we at? Yeah, so you do the static. That's the thing. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of so 𝐓𝐫𝐸𝐜𝐤𝐬, well, however you say that. 𝐓𝐫𝐸𝐜𝐤, but congratulations. Yeah, some people don't like it. Some people really like to have the static initiative. I'm not a big fan of it. I just like a lot of activity. I am very roll it every round. Static becomes boring. It's for me. It's kind of this. It's a psychological thing with dice. Everybody loves to hear the dice, and the more dice are hitting the table, that so distinctive sound that we've all come to love. You know, we're working on a digital dice roller that you'll have on your phone. We should have it up here very, very soon. Phone and computers and whatnot. And when it first came over, it didn't have the sound. And I told the designer, dude, we got to have the sound, man. So he put the sound in there. So, yeah, it's just something about those dice rolling. It's very, very interesting. Let's see, it makes the situation chaotic and very much in flux. One extra roll adds quite a lot. It can very much do that. I love rolling initiative each round and probably prefer to do it by side instead of individually. Initiative becomes a solid point in a strategy action. It does, especially if it's static. Let's see, questions. So what CNC adventure would you best recommend to hook new players? Want to make sure I have it in my collection if I don't already. So, you know, every time that pops up, I recommend one of three. Assault on Blacktooth Ridge is probably the best. I don't know what type of GMing you do, Jill, but Assault on Blacktooth Ridge has, Davis wrote it, Chenault, my brother. It's got overland, small dungeons, NPCs, you know, noble barony type thing, river crossing, one of my favorite things. Terrain. It's just got kind of everything that you need for whatever type of adventure you want to run. We offer that at Castles and Crusades, of course, and we've got a 5th edition version of everyone, so that as well. So A1 Assault on Blacktooth Ridge is a fantastic one. Line in the Ropes. This is another very good one. It's I wrote it, so I'm not going to say it's a very good one, but it's got kind of 3 levels that the CK is running things on, and it's a low one as well. And then there's always 𝐓𝐫𝐸𝐜𝐤, another one Davis wrote. It's for low-level adventures, and it's your very, very classic stuck in the tower, must save the princess from the orcs and whatnot. She's not really a princess, and she turns out to be a badass fighter. But so this whole, the kind of that classic trope, but it's done in Davis's style with his insane orcs and goblins. So it's very cool. First recommendation: Assault on Blacktooth Ridge, followed by Line in the Ropes, and then 𝐓𝐫𝐸𝐜𝐤 on top of that. Let's see. I missed a whole bunch in here. Gary Con and Luke both are on TikTok. There you go. What are we doing? Hi, Tim, blah, blah. I haven't decided how I want to do initiative for my third-party CNC pulp like this. I need to decide. I only have till Tuesday. You got a few days. Work it out. Now, I would try both, too. I mean, there's no reason to not change it up. If you try the non-static rolling each round and you don't like it, stop. But I think that if you start doing it, once you get kind of used to it, it's easy, and it gives the players, and it's just so much more going on, and you just kind of gotta, you know, it's not even a remembering thing because you're doing it in the round. Because I'll start, you know, I'll finish the round with player A, and start on player B. I'll have them rolling initiative before I finish the round on player A. So I try to keep at least 2-3 people going simultaneously. It gets tricky, but those dice hit the table. How's it going, last laugh? Now another river. I love rivers. I love them. I really should cross one of these days. I should make myself swim across the river and see how actually tough it is to get across it. I'd probably stop doing that. I had no problem jolt with kicker. And you know, I'm gonna say this again. Any questions you have about anything, just throw them in. I'll do my best to answer, even if it's not with Jim's tricks or the tricks. If a friend of mine ran a game with initiative being rolled per side rather than individually, he noticed that the players worked more as a team when this was done before with individual initiative. Everyone was acting alone. That's a great point too, because if you know if you know in the round when your action is going to take place, you can kind of contemplate what you're going to do, which is good. That's actually a very good thing, and that can save the players from many a pitfall. On the other hand, it does take away from that chaos of, uncertainty that you don't know what's going. You don't know if the enemy is going to move faster or slower, so you have to take whatever action, and it does become a little bit more of a free for all. So it's a trade-off. All of these things are a trade-off. However you're going to do it, there's pluses and minuses in both camps, and it kind of boils down to the way you want to run your game, what you kind of want to focus on. And then for me, I always want combat to be kind of this, what I call the shaky camera syndrome, from Saving Private Ryan. That would be a great movie. Let's shave Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan. I just like the chaos of it. That's the whole initiative thing. And I like to engage players. I like them rolling dice. And my players love to roll dice. And a lot of them are crazy dice collectors. So I got 10 million dice at the table. So if I have a question, if magical cantrips make you fall over, do cantrips keep you from falling? There you go, Peter. Peter has joined the conversation. That is probably with players metagame to more. I've never seen the other side of one of Steve's rivers. Want initiative to be even more important. There were a couple of magic items in the party, such as a ring and an initiative. There you go. Giving a bonus to initiative. There's some sword that gives you that, like a bonus 2 or something. It changes everything because they're winning initiative all the time. It's pretty cool. Let's see. Fluid initiative keeps things dynamic. With group initiatives as DM, you can give the players in most danger a chance to go early, so they know their fate. Well, that's interesting. Ring initiative 7. Initiative is always 7. You're going to win, especially in my game. Oh, so we're doing so Tim got smart. He texted me so it would ring on my phone. We are doing the second raffle now. So please enter in !raffle to be entered in for the next chair at the table. I can see the headlines now. Game designer drowns trying to. Yeah, I'm not swimming the Arkansas River. That thing is huge. That thing is monstrous. Down here, it's just absolutely monstrous. Now, I've been up near it in Colorado. I think I could swim it in Kansas. I think in Kansas it's pretty narrow. I'm sure they're not doing it here. Great. We actually formed shield walls and had formations with each weapon in the back. That's badass. I love it when strategy does kind of form up at the table. No heat in the battle. It really depends on the size of the group for me. If it's really a large group, I just have too much trouble with rolling initiative every round. I even do it, Geek Preacher, I even do it with 24 people at GaryCon. Everybody's got to roll randomly. It gets chaotic as hell. And there are also systems where players take turns based on the actions they're taking. Actions are declared at the beginning of the round, including what spells will be cast. Ranged attacks go first, followed by melee attacks, and last with spells. Yeah, that reminds me of the way a lot of the old war games used to play. You would your actions were kind of set by what they were doing when they went in the rounds. But it was very cool for tanks and whatnot. And it's an interesting way to it's an interesting concept to bring to the role-playing table. All right, let's see. Initiative for every round and hide the order. It really keeps everyone on the hook. So there you go. There you go. Maybe that's the best rule. No one knows what's going on. Let's see. Sounds like an army, not a small group of adventurers. Hey, I got to tell you, these guys I'm running now, they form up into little formations quick. They're learning very, very quick. They use terrain. They fought about 40 hobgoblins last week, and they specifically looked for a place that they could bottleneck the choke point in this valley so that they could hammer the hobgoblins. They did really good. Try wading a river in a full Civil War uniform and kit, but the olden days. All right, so let's jump into. So this is one Trigger to Trade number 3. It's something I maybe used once or twice. I've run into this. We all, as a DM, GM, CK, you've all run into players gaining another level, and they roll horribly on their hit points, and it's a little frustrating. It's a little frustrating for the GM. It's very frustrating for the player. It's a little frustrating for the GM because they end up weaker than you had hoped. The more damage they can take, the more monsters you can throw at them guilt-free, and it gets a little bit easier. So when they roll really bad, it's just disappointing all the way around. So one of the things that I have done in the past, so like I said, not very often, is I will give them a number of rolls equal to the bonus of their Constitution. So if they have +2 Constitution, then when they make level, they get to roll their new hit dice twice, and it just gives you a little bit, a little bit of an angle, and it does kind of go against those weaker characters. But if you tell them this at the outset, they're going to understand that Constitution has even more of an importance at the table than otherwise, and they can put a higher, attributes there if they want. That's entirely up to them. So you punt it to them, let them make the choice whether they're going to use this or not. Otherwise, they just get the one roll or what have you. So it's just kind of a way. It's a very simple way to allow people to get a little bit of a leg up and maybe get a few more hit points than they otherwise would have gotten. I've seen you do it. I've played in those games. You're the only person I've seen who does it smoothly. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't feel smoothly, and it requires lots of Dr. Pepper to keep my focus going on. But thank you for the compliment. Yeah, I do too, Storycrafter. I miss the in-person cons. Anyways, we don't all want to go down that road. We all miss them. There's no sense bemoaning it. It is what it is. This is where we are. Is this the young men's game? There you go. Yes, it is. I've got ranging from, I think they're all 15 now, maybe 14. I don't know, 14 to 19, and it's 4 of them, and it's a hoot. It is a lot of fun. It reminds me of gaming when I was, just starting out, because it's crazy, and they're trying all kinds of stuff. It's just very interesting. I would strongly recommend playing a role-playing game with younger people. You will not be disappointed. It's amazing how real-world combat tactics work in pretty much every tabletop game, whether it was intended or not. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reason that goes. There's a lot of science that goes into combat. A lot of science. You can look at infantry tactics and armor tactics and all of these things. There's a lot of science that goes into it, and there's a cornerstone to the whole thing. It's why, and if you want to know more, Rommel's Infantry Attacks is a fantastic book to give you a good idea of the way these things work, and bring that type of stuff to the table. We'll get more into that, into the art of war. Let's see, did we got a winner? I'm not sure what's going on. Let's see, Commander Pete, one captain keeper I was playing with, let us roll for hit points on each level, but if we roll less than 50% of the max value, then we received at least the 50%. Oh, no, that's cool. Now, that's a great way of doing it. So that way you're guaranteed. So if you're a cleric, say, and you're going to roll a d8, you're guaranteed at least 4 hit points. That's a really cool way to do it. I like that, because then you as a GM, you can be certain that they're not going to come away with horrible hit points. I can tell you now, so when the game we're running in now, when Davis was the cleric, and he made it to 2nd level, and he rolled a 1 for his hit point. So he had like 8 hit points. And he made it to 3rd level, and he rolled a 1 for his hit point. So he had like a Constitution, he was like at 10 hit points. And then when he made it to 4th level, he rolled a 2 or 1 again. So he ended up with this 4th level character with like 14 hit points or some crazy shit like that. And I don't want to say it's unplayable, but it's borderline unplayable. Because now things that are annihilating, or things that are hitting the party, are annihilating him. So the hit points thing does actually become problematic after a while. 1st level max HP, 2nd level roll 2 dice, take the highest roll with a minimum of 50%, plus 1 3rd level and beyond, plus 1 3rd level and beyond, roll 2 dice, take the highest roll. There you go, that's another great system John put out there, and it kind of guarantees you avoid the situation that I just discussed, where you've got a 4th level character with 14 or 15 hit points, whatever it was. And that's a great way of doing it. We really need a place to put these extraneous GM tricks of the trade. Both of those are great ideas and ways just to kind of solve an issue that it could be a real bad problem, at some point. I use training between levels to allow the additional roll of hit points. Rolling a number of dice equal to con bonus is a cool idea. And that, I used to do the training. If you remember the old AD&D, I'm pretty sure, unless my brain has gotten foggy, you had to train for like 2 weeks to gain 2nd level. That's a great, bring that back, and then they gain a hit point or 2 or whatever out of doing the training. That's a great way of actually bringing some real world stuff into it, because you've got to train, right? It's not all just about, I just slew that orc, now I'm better. The DM who runs games, a friend of mine wants me to step in and run a few, but 6 hours time, yeah, that's a huge time difference. And we are off on, so Willie the Rat, 1 seat 2, very cool. Welcome aboard, Willie. We'll see you next Friday. And we're off to the next Dumaflachi, whatever they call it. Raffle. We're off to the next raffle. We have played around with a house rule where you either roll your hit points and accepted to roll regardless, or you take half of the maximum roll. I have had players choose half the max. Oh, no, that's interesting. Again, that kind of that's a good way of doing it. That kind of guarantees that they're going to get enough out of it that after 3 levels, you've got a good solid character there. It's not just goofy. All right, hold on just 1 second. I got to answer Zoe. Which one's the Volcreed? I'm not going to argue. Oh, yeah, that's that gigantic one. Okay, good deal. All right, so, all of these are just good ways to help kind of pump up the characters because we really don't want someone who can't survive a few rounds. It's very frustrating. What's the ratio on that? He's asking retro. I'm no good with math, so I'm not going to answer that. Generally, I start players at max hit points at first level, but after that, I let them reroll 1s. Rolling 1s for hit point stuck. I saw in some other OSR games a suggestion that each level the player rerolls all their hit point dice. If the total is higher than that they had before, they keep the new HP number. If not, they keep the old HP number. Oh, no, that's kind of it. That is interesting. That reminds me, now I can't remember what the controversy was. Something about when you lose a level, how many hit points do you lose? Do you lose what you rolled for that level, or do you lose half, or do you lose any? And I think, traditionally, when they lost a level, I've not required them to lose any hit points. I'm pretty sure that's how I normally do it, but I so rarely, because I met out experience points so slowly, I don't use the level loss monsters. I just don't do it. So I've never really had a standing rule for that. That's interesting. This hit point stuff we need to do a whole Jim Trickster trade on hit points, I think. Because there's clearly a lot of great ideas, a lot of different ways that people approach this to solve what's clearly a problem, because we've had, in the space of 10 minutes, we've had 4 or 5 suggestions on a way to fix it. Maybe have every few levels a minimum that you get, so if you had crap rolls all along, you still know now hope is on the horizon. That's a good way of doing it. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is kind of the same thing, is you're making certain that they don't end up with really crappy hit points at higher levels, because that will really begin to impact your game in a huge way. It's one of the things that, like when a player rolls really bad attributes, it sounds cool on the surface, but it really begins to hamper the game after a while, with minuses in there and just crazy crap like that. In our campaign, we re-roll 1s and 2s, so you can take 1/2 plus 1. I used to do the re-roll 1 stuff. I did that for a little while. Level drains, you had to keep track. Yeah, see, that's part of what I think the controversy was. I finally did a level drain on a character, 2, and he was trying to figure out the hit points. I was like, dude, you don't lose any hit points. Because it never kind of crossed my mind what happens then. I don't like level drains. I'm just not a fan of it. Casual, all of you, I play my 8-level fighter with 8 hit points, and I like it, damn it. Yeah. There you go. You will survive. You will survive. In con mode, plus what was re-rolled by your call. How would you handle characters assisting each other on a strength roll, say lifting a large block that's blocking the door? So what I do on that, Green Lantern, one of them has to decide that they're doing the lifting. And then anyone up to the number of characters that can fit, so let's say 3 people to get to that door, anyone who helps, their bonus can be added to the person rolling. So in Castles and Crusades, you're going to want to have, say, in this instance, you would want to have someone with a prime strength that's going to give you a better chance to lift it, but it doesn't matter what that prime strength is, so long as they're getting a bonus on it, because anybody who jumps onto that door is going to add their bonus to it. So you could get, say everyone has a +1 strength, and you would end up, so one of them's going to make a check, and it's a +3 on the check to get the thing lifted. And I have to tell you, one of the things that I understand the logic behind it in role-playing games, but I've never quite I've never quite, I understand the mechanical logic, but I've never understood just the logic behind it when you can only make a strength check once. And I'll frequently describe them as wrenching their shoulder out or something like that, but the whole attribute check for lifting and moving stuff, I mean, we're always trying to move crap around here, and if we don't move it, if we fail to move it the first time, we don't stop and not move it. We figure a way how to move it. Have you done the math on this, or is it just, oh, that's for someone else? Blah, blah, blah. We have to stick with old 1E, 215 for reroll. Too many high rolls is a kind of game-breaking too, but easy to begin because you just deal out more damage. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So if you haven't given us a follow, please do so. Follow us here on Twitch. We surely do appreciate it. Level draining is a cool idea that is way too cumbersome to incorporate and maintain the speed of play. Really what players are terrified of is the loss of ability and the threat of instant and irrevocable death. There has to be a way to simulate that with like a fatigue mechanic or something that applies cumulative penalties instead of subtracting level bonus. And that's actually what I'll do is I'll knock, when I run into these monsters that have that, it'll drain the level, but the level heals back over the next 2 or 3 days. You know, whatever that constitute, whatever it is comes back. Because I'm not a big fan of wiping characters. The experience points is too hard to earn, and you're dead on. The frustration goes through the roof when they can't do things when they've lost an ability that they've worked so very, very hard to get to. Hold on, I gotta answer this. All right, yep, she's got it. Good deal. All right, so okay, so that's how I handled it as well. I had the party trapped in the corner. That was a steam trap that got hotter. They had to find a way to get out. Yeah, it's just an easy way to do it, and everybody gets to jump in there. We put our back out, swear that we. Let's see, I missed something. We put our back out and swear that we are getting old. Where was determination trying? Yeah, there you go. That's what it is. I recently spotted a take on level drain. Whites, wraiths, and other lesser undead drain 1d6 constitution, specters, vampires, and blah, blah, blah. 2d4 shadows, blah, blah, blah. 1d6. As the character drains to 0 and the score is lost and becomes an undead of the type. Yeah, that's kind of cool, because once you're at 0 in an attribute, wait, we got another one? I thought we did all 3 of them. We're doing another raffle. Okay. I thought we already done all 3 of them. I'm an idiot. All right, so yeah, we got another raffle. So enter your raffle in here. So they finally tried lifting the stone that was blocking the door. I'm going to miss you in this raffle. This raffle stuff here. Very cool. All right, yeah. So we're raffling off and as we're doing this, we're raffling off the last seat. I'm going to do the next one because we're rapidly running out of time as we usually do. So barium deep. So this is just something I do on encounters. I like to do an encounter inside an encounter. That way, when they think the one is done, another one springs up on them. And the example I used, I had them fight a bunch of these smaller Fae. I can't remember what they were. And these Fae had this hound dog tied up in their lair. So once they slew all of these evil Fae, they went to the lair, and they found this hound dog. All of them were like, yeah, they rescued the hound dog, got the treasure. And later that night, the hound dog, of course, was a Varghest, because they can take the shape of a dog or a wolf. And it transformed itself into its true form, the Varghest, and attacked one of the party members that was keeping guard. It was just a lot of fun because they thought that they were through that and they weren't even in the middle, or they're just still in the middle of it. And it caused a lot of surprise and consternation, and characters without armor and shields leaping up to combat this very powerful creature. It's a lot of fun. So if you can take an encounter, wrap another encounter inside of it, it's always a lot of fun. It's that they feel like they finished it. It's like watching that movie. You think it's over, but it's not over. We still got one more thing to go. And the attribute loss is a big part of my games. It's another way to measure body damage instead of just hit points. I do attribute loss, but I'll heal it just like hit points. They'll take damage, suffer a couple of attribute points, and then it heals back. One attribute every hour or one a day, depending on what I'm doing with it. But that's a great way of doing it, especially in Castles and Crusades. The attributes are a huge part of it, absolutely huge part of it. And is that a Mike Lindell icon? I don't even know what Mike Lindell is. That an artist? Or I'm not sure. If you're talking about that little demon here, that is Zoe Devos. That's her latest rendition of an 𝐓𝐫𝐤𝐬 demon. It's a total biscuit. I don't know. I don't know what you guys talking about. So Oh, pillows. I need some pillows. Anyway, so on to trick of the trade number 5, motion. So this is an important thing. This is a great GM's tool you really need to keep in mind. It's going to impact spells. It's going to impact the way encounters are either decimated or not decimated. Motion. Everything is moving on that. Everything on the battlefield is moving. The players are moving. The monsters are moving. It's not like a cartoon where you got one person hitting them with a bat and the other person hits them with a bat. That's not what the combat is. It's dynamic. Yes, each surface dynamic. There's motion constantly. Everybody's moving to the left, right, forward, back. You've seen it in the movies. They do a great job of this stuff all over the place. And it's the same thing when they're casting Soundburst or Sleep or Fireball or whatever. I'm going to put it right here on these 6 miniatures. If those 6 miniatures are moving, they're actually running forward. Even though they're standing still on the battle map, they're actually in motion. So when your Fireball goes off, it only gets these 4. That type of thing. But it's important that you remind people of this constant motion. Remind people, your characters, your players, remind players of this constant motion simply because when it comes into play, as in a spell or as in a dodge or any of that stuff, they're not going to suddenly think you've sprung a rule on them. You sprung something on them that wasn't here before. It's very fluid. Everything's very dynamic. Things are moving around. Everybody's fighting. Keep that going. Keep that tone and that lesson going continually. And even in non-combat situations, if they're talking to the guards, let them know a couple of the guards are moving to the left. This guard kind of backs up a little bit to give room for his pike. Whatever. The pike, that would be a horrible weapon to guard against. That would be ridiculous. And 6-second rounds, everyone's rounds take that place in that 6 seconds. Exactly. And in 6 seconds, you can move a lot. You can cover a little bit of distance, and you can wave your arms and kick and all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do in 6 seconds. Is there a movie, 60 Seconds? Gone in 60 Seconds? Is that a movie? Gone in 60 Seconds? I think that's a movie. Let's see. For characters and monsters that have attack of what is that? Attack of AOE spells. I should know what that is. On deck saves and have them move out of the area of effect. That's why they took half damage. It really changes the field of battle. Area of effect. There you go. Yeah, I should have known. Honestly, I should have known that, for God's sake. Gone in 60 seconds. Is that Nicolas Cage? That's Nicolas Cage. I think that's Nicolas Cage. I love Nicolas Cage. He's done a couple of really cool movies lately. You guys should check that. But yeah, and that's the whole thing. And you can do the half damages, all kinds of stuff. Now, in Castles and Crusades, there's no real rules for this. And I don't even think in the CKG this is covered. Maybe it is. It's one of those things that I do on the fly at the table, and I do it all the time so that people that game with me regularly know that motion is a part of it, and it might not work out how they want it to. And that plays into a whole philosophy of spell casting that we've discussed before, and that the spells don't always necessarily work how they're described to work in the book for both directions. Sometimes they are better for the players, and sometimes they don't work out as well. And because this is kind of a continuous thing at my table, anytime that I kind of CK from the hip, everyone is perfectly happy with it because it's always done. So it's not something I'm just making up on the fly. I see the original is better than the Cage one. Oh, I didn't know there was an original one. That's funny. I always like the idea of a fight that's also a chase, but whenever initiative gets rolled, everyone's feet turn into cement because of the strict movement limit. If 2 people have a 30 movement speed, they can never close the gap between each other. Yeah, that's the thing, and it's very hard to envision, especially when you get miniatures. It's one reason that I frequently in small combats won't use miniatures, because I want people to envision what's going on, and that gives even more fluidity to it, if that makes sense. As soon as you put a miniature on the map, on that battle map, and I do it, I use miniatures a lot, huge fan of Reaper miniatures. As soon as you put a miniature on the map, it's static. People go to that, okay, I've moved these 3 hexes, so you're kind of a little bit of an uphill battle when you're doing that. But like I said, I still use them, frequently do. But as often, I'll just describe it and hope that they get some kind of picture in it. Have you ever tried simultaneous action selection when played out in initiative order? You mean from different players? Yeah, I will do that sometimes, and a lot of that boils down to you got to, as a GM, you need to know the characters that are at the table and what, at least vaguely, what they're capable of. So, for instance, if I'm working with player on my immediate right and we've rolled initiative, but I know the third player over here is casting a spell and has no one attacking them, I will frequently start this and then I'll say, what are you doing? So that there can be an action that happens simultaneously with this round going on here. Now, it's one of those things that, okay, so we have a winner, Ancient Fry Dragon. Is that somebody? Is that someone out there? You have won the next seat. Yes, Ancient Fry Dragon. What? Ancient, I feel like I'm doing Red Dragon? I don't know. Whatever. You got it. You know what I'm talking about. Congratulations. Yeah, awesome. So, it's one of those things that at my table becomes, there's not a system for it, fry as in the fire. There you go. It's not a system for it, but there's no rules for it. But I do it at the table simply because in combat, people are doing things simultaneously, right? It's not actually happening in 7 separate, little or 5 or whatever, how many players you got to take, little bitty actions, spiraling around, whatever. Combat is one of those things, and we've done a lot of GM tricks of the trade on these, and it may behoove us just to kind of revisit some of these things. Combat is one of those things that I feel like needs to be very energetic and dynamic is a great word, and fluid, and a little confusing. It's got to be a little chaos to it. I want there to be chaos to it. I want people to be a little bit confused about everything. The reason that is it just adds that just another layer of tension. I don't know what's going on, and that's okay, because frequently when there's so much activity going around, and you're fighting this, right? You're struggling with this thing, all that stuff in your peripheral vision. You don't really know what's going on, and players will metagame. They don't do it, you know, in a hostile or whatever manner. Hostile's not the right word, but malicious. They don't do it maliciously. It's just natural. You're listening to what's happening to the fellow next to you. You know, maybe she's winning her round, so you're listening. You want to know, and then you're going to subconsciously make an action based on what's happening to her. So it's just a natural thing. So anything that you can do to turn that a little bit, because you don't want to make it incomprehensible. You don't want that. But anything that you can do to add, to inject just a smidge of chaos to that, and kind of derail any of that metagaming that's going on, is a good thing in my opinion, because you want them to be on edge. That's the purpose of the combat in RPGs. Just like in a movie, when you're watching a horror movie or an action movie, when you're watching King Leonidas and 300 stand there in that thing fighting all the Persians, you want there to be this level of tension to it to make you more interested. And the RPGs are absolutely no different. If you do just kind of static, run-of-the-mill battles, then it's not. Then it's just that. It's just a static, run-of-the-mill battle. It's like watching a TV show that you know the end. You know what's going to happen in every combat. It's frequently why I don't like a lot of movies and TV shows where I know beyond a shadow of a doubt what's going to happen. And I use an example of what a show that I don't know what's going to happen is like The Punisher. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on Netflix, but he gets to live in hell, beat out of him so often. Somewhere in your head, you know he's going to win, right? He's the title character of the show. He's probably not going to lose. But the struggle is such that you don't know how to keep him playing. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to, when I'm running a game, I'm trying to bring to the table. Are the text alerts different from the newsletter? Yes. So I think that if you're on, so Trollord Games has a newsletter, obviously, that we send out 2 to 3 a week, and then we've got the Kickstarter updates, blah, blah, blah. But there is we've got a phone number that you can text to, right? No, that you subscribe to that we text on. And that number is very short. There's little kind of new announcements and discounts and codes and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure that is different. Wait, he's answered that. Yes, there are usually exclusive sales in this. There you go. Okay. Tim manages that kind of thing. So I'll leave it with that. Rewording my question, what do you do when a character keeps metagaming his little chunk of fiction? Well, you know, you're always going to have that. Someone is always going to try to do this giant picture thing. And frequently, if that becomes disruptive to the way I'm running the game or disruptive to the other characters, and I mean it begins to kind of change the whole dynamic of the way the other players are doing and taking their actions, I will hammer that player. I will open open the gates of hell on that player, and it will come at them. So, say there's 4 ogres and a frost giant going. The frost giant goes for them, and it becomes this kind of chaotic thing, forcing their hand to focus more on what's happening in their immediate environment than trying to metagame the combat. Because if they don't, they're going to die. It's a good question, because it gets very frustrating when someone starts stealing that chaos from it and purposely kind of trying to lay it out, especially when it's done mechanically. When it's done mechanically, it frustrates me to no end, and I will open it up. I don't do it often, but I will open it up. How bandwidth died, hotspotting. Who won? Ancient Fry Dragon. Instead of knowing what's going to happen, you could go all George R.R. Martin, where everyone could die. I think pretty much everyone dies in Martin's books anyway. The risk of that, people will stop caring their characters. But that's true. That's the other. You know, it's funny. You're cracking a joke, but you're not, because if you kill characters all the time, if this is what's happening, TPKs, then they're just going to die. They're just going to play for the sport of dying, and it's sort of a game, but it's not. You're never going to get a good campaign. You're never going to get any kind of stuff like that. I think killing a character is not something you want to do all the time. You really don't want to plan to kill a character ever. If they die, they die. But I'll turn the dice all the time just to keep them alive, because I don't want them to die. When they die, I want it to have some kind of meaning at the table, so it's not something that's just, you're just getting slaughtered. Well, thanks. Eat to Surf. I frequently get comments from some of the old guard that I'm too gentle on characters, but there comes a time where where you just got to open it up, and it's you make a loud noise, and they'll focus on that loud noise, and that loud noise usually comes with a huge amount of pain. It's good, and hopefully Eat to Surf. You only have to do it like 4 times before they stop doing that, before they realize that they're metagaming and quit doing it. I don't mind dying if it's for something special. Yeah, it's got to have some kind of meaning to it. It can't just be, crap. I say that. Now, sometimes just dying randomly is kind of cool, too. But it can't be this constant, every game you're getting chewed up like a gristmill. It's just not good for it. The longer someone takes to make a character, the longer you should think about killing them. But we all guys know that dying is part of the game. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, now we've talked about this before, too, that when I see someone making or we're starting a new game or a first level character, I will tell them every time, hold up on the background. Just hold up. Wait till you make it to second, maybe even third level, whatever you're comfortable with, but do not come rolling out with 5 sheets of paper, your whole background, your family, all of these things. And as cool as that is, there's a really good chance you're not going to make it. And you're going to have all that wasted literature. So save the idea, until you survive, because you might just, not make it. I think I was way too lenient in the players in my A0 game. They were multiple TPK possibilities in second level. Barely a knock, but they got out of it each time. I think it's cool, though. I mean, if it's a near miss, I think that's cool. I think TPKs, honestly, I think I've done it once in 40 years. I think I just don't like TPKs. Now, I've done very close to TPKs, but it has to be kind of a monumental disaster, and no one ever quit the battlefield for a TPK to happen. Not all deaths are epic affairs. No, they're not. And sometimes when someone dies just really, mundanely, let's use that word, then it actually helps heighten the whole experience of the game. it doesn't all have to be epic death. What's my favorite epic death of all time is, what is the movie with Matthew McConaughey, where he got the axe fighting the dragons, whatever, Fire or something, whatever that movie is. I don't want to spoil it, but that movie has the most epic death scene of all time. Go on, Fire or something? Rain of Fire, yes, there you go, Peter. It's a fantastic movie. And many modern gamers used to death and revival from MMORPGs that need to be consideration, yeah. I know someone who considers bad things happening to her character as a personal attack. She gets very upset. For that reason, I have not invited her to my table, even though she's a nice gal. Yeah, I had a player like that for years and years and years, and to this day, and we're very good friends. We've known each other since 80, whatever. But to this day, and we've kind of quit playing gamers together. To this day, he takes what happens to his character very personally, whether it's the dice that did it or his own actions that did it or whatever it is. And sometimes you get that, and it's hard to work around that. It's hard to get someone over the hump of that. Live a bit before you get attached to that guy. So, yeah. So there's always Bob the 8. Yeah. With his 8 hit points. King Cothart. TPK doesn't have to be a TPK. They all pass out before dying, so they can all wake up in jail. There you go. See, I find them absolutely averse to taking any damage in mates long deadly combats because they try to avoid melee outcomes. That's no good. I once played in a game where a fellow PC killed us as we slept. Everyone's next character came into play, hating people named Scott. I did that once. I played in one. I was a player in an evil game. We did this horrible attack on a village and robbed everybody. Then I murdered everybody in their sleep and took everything. It was really funny. I've done one TPK, and they all woke up on the banks of the River Styx. That's interesting. They didn't have any money to pay him to ferry them into the underworld, so they went out into the wilderness of hell trying to find their way home. Eventually, all but one of them. Oh, that's very cool. So that's a really transformative campaign. You moved your game from the material world and into the world of the undead. I've never heard of that. That's very cool. That is awesome, King Cothart. I love that idea. It sounds like that needs to be written up some. And my TPK put them in the abyss and then to Metamorphosis Alpha. Very cool. Put them on the Starship Warden. Coming soon from Trollhorn Games. And not as soon as we'd like, but soon. All right, so we are way over time here. Yeah, Tim's checking out. He's got to be gone at 5, so we are over time. Thank you all for joining us today. Give us a follow if you have not. Look forward to gaming with all of you winners all of you winners. That sounded horrible. With everybody who won the raffle next Friday. It was a great stream. We will see you next Tuesday at 4 o'clock for Ask Me Anything. And next Thursday at 4 o'clock for this GM's Tricks of the Trade. All right, everybody. Thanks for showing up. What the hell? That was a horrible way to put that. Okay, everybody. Y'all have a great rest of your week and a wonderful, safe weekend. Take care, everybody.